Hello, and welcome to the Pittsburgh City Council Standing Committee meeting for April 10th, 2019. My name is Chris Dodson, and with us today is Nick Miller, our sign language interpreter. City Council will discuss the following legislation for preliminary vote. Pre-agenda appointments and or reappointments. Bill number 2019-1518, resolution appointing James R. Berry, Jr. as Commissioner of the Shade Tree Commission of the City of Pittsburgh for a term to expire March 31st, 2021. Bill number 2019-1519, resolution appointing Jamie R. Holloway as a Commissioner of the Shade Tree Commission of the City of Pittsburgh for a term to expire March 31st, 2021. Bill number 2019-1520, resolution appointing Brian J. Wolniak as a Commissioner of the Shade Tree Commission of the City of Pittsburgh for a term to expire March 31st, 2021. Bill number 2019-1536, resolution appointing Michael M. Domack as a member of the Pittsburgh Water and Sewer Authority for a term to expire on March 31st, 2023. Mr. Domack will fill a seat that had been vacant. Now, Finance and Law. Reverend Burgess is the chair. Deferred papers. Bill number 2019-1338. Ordinance amending, supplementing, and correcting the Pittsburgh Code at Title II, Fiscal, Article 1, Administrative, Chapter 219, Operating Budget, so as to add contract and bid information requirements to fiscal impact statements and to further correct numbering and formatting. Bill number 2019-1469. Resolution authorizing the mayor and city solicitor to enter into a professional services agreement with Fox Rothschild LLP, 2000 Market Street, 20th floor, Philadelphia, PA, 19103, in the amount not to exceed $110,000 and no cents for professional consulting and legal services in relation to False Claims Act litigation. Bill number 2019-1491, resolution for issuance of a warrant for invoices totaling $4,092.23 in favor of Diapollonia Engineering related to evaluation of slope conditions. New papers. Bill number 2019-1530, resolution authorizing the issuance of a warrant in favor of Tucker Independent Medical Experts, Inc., 2400 Annisys Drive, Suite 102, Canonsburg, PA, 15317, in an amount not to exceed $9,900 and no cents for professional services in connection with litigation. Bill number 2019-1531, resolution providing for the issuance of a warrant in the total sum of $5,000 and no cents in favor of Linda Green, care of Emerald N. Williams, Esquire, Woomer and Tallarico, LLC, 2945 Banksville Road, Suite 200, Pittsburgh, PA, 15216-2749, as final settlement related to action filed in the Common Pleas Court of Allegheny County. Public Works Committee, Ms. Kell Smith is the chair. New papers. Bill number 1535, resolution authorizing the mayor and director of the Department of Public Works to apply for grant funding from the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources Community Conservation Partnership Program to provide funding for renovation of the Southside Park. The grant proposal includes an ask of $400,000 with a local match of $400,000 that will be allocated in the 2020 City of Pittsburgh capital budget. In the event the grant is awarded, the resolution provides for an agreement and expenditures not to exceed $800,000 for this stated purpose. Bill number 2019-1538, resolution amending Resolution 827 of 2015 entitled Resolution Authorizing the Director of Public Works to create a veteran banner program to waive or reduce certain fees per section 416.02 of the Pittsburgh Code to hang banners approved by the Director of Public Works at specific approved locations in the city of Pittsburgh by removing the approval of the Art Commission. Land Use and Economic Development Committee, Ms. Gross is the chair. New papers, 2019-1532, resolution authorizing the mayor and the director of city planning of the city of Pittsburgh to accept the grant from the Pennsylvania Museum and Historical Commission in the amount of $22,000. This grant will be used in conjunction with department funds to execute contracts for an architectural inventory of historic structures in the Oakland neighborhood of the city, not to exceed $44,000. Bill number 2019-1534, resolution authorizing the mayor and director of the Department of City Planning to apply for grant funding from the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources Community Conservation Partnerships Program to provide funding for the master park planning process for Hayes Woods. The grant proposal includes an ask of $100,000 with a local match of $100,000 to come out of the 2020 City of Pittsburgh capital budget, JDE number 1109500120.50000.00. In the event the grant is awarded, the resolution provides for an agreement and expenditures not to exceed $200,000 for the stated purpose. And a Governmental Affairs Committee, Mr. O'Connor is the chair. Deferred papers, bill number 2019-1514, resolution adopting the plan revision to the City of Pittsburgh official sewage facilities plan for the 21st and Smallman Mixed Commercial Development Project. The existing buildings will be or have been demolished, and new buildings will be a mixture of restaurant, retail, and office space. Parking will be provided via a 3-level parking deck over existing surface parking. The site is located on the north side of Smallman Street between 21st and 23rd Streets in the 2nd Ward of the City of Pittsburgh, 15222. Now, this concludes the reading for April 10th, 2019. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this pre-agenda item of Pittsburgh City Council for today, Wednesday, April 10th, 2019. We have 4 appointments today that are under council consideration. We are going to take 3 separately. They are nominated to be commissioners of the Shade Tree Commission. And Madam Clerk, can we begin by reading Bills 15, 18, 19, and 20?
Bill 1518, resolution appointing James R. Barry, Jr. as a commissioner of the Shade Tree Commission of the City of Pittsburgh for a term to expire March 31st, 2021. Bill 1519, resolution appointing Jamie R. Holloway as a commissioner of the Shade Tree Commission of the City for a term to expire March 31st, 2021. Bill 1520, resolution appointing Brian J. Wooliniak as a commissioner of the Shade Tree Commission of the city for a term to expire March 31st, 2021.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Good morning, everyone. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you.
So we like to keep these somewhat casual and comfortable. You're amongst friends. Please don't be nervous in any way. We're going to ask you each to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, your desire to serve in the Shade Tree Commission, and then we'll open it up to members for questions or comments that they might have. So, James, can I begin with you?
Sure.
Thanks.
James Berry. I'm a representative. I'm the manager of vegetation management at Duquesne Light. I've been working here at Duquesne or in the Pittsburgh region now for the better part of 10 years. I'd say 9.5, going on 10 here in October. So I have a forestry degree and from Penn State. I'm a certified arborist as well as some other certifications and qualifications within the field. And again, working with the city to promote reliable electric service through right tree, right place is number one to me, and ensuring that we promote a healthy canopy here. So,
Jamie, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome.
My name's Jamie Holloway, and I am originally from Pittsburgh. I work at the Forbes Funds, which is a nonprofit organization that does capacity building for different organizations in the city. And I'm also a member of my civic club, the Neighborhood Civic Club in Wind Gap, Chartier City, where we promote the beautification of our neighborhood. And so my interest there is residential, keeping neighborhoods, the environment healthy.
And last, Brian. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Brian Woliniak. I am an urban forestry educator with Penn State Extension and have been working in that position for almost 6 years now. And in that position, work primarily with municipalities throughout Allegheny County as well as beyond all of southwestern Pennsylvania on how to get trees into their communities and have them grow healthy and keep the trees in good health and people happy with those trees in those places. So a lot of work with shade tree ordinances and developing shade tree commissions for various municipalities.
I've said this before. I'm compelled to say it again. I am always amazed at the caliber of the candidate that comes here to bring their skills in private service into public service, and your qualifications are amazing. Members do have your resumes, and you bring stellar qualifications to serve in the Shade Tree Commission. Thank you. Thank you for wanting to do that. Councilman.
I would just say thank you for your willingness to serve. I think a lot of people don't understand the importance of this commission. I would say a bulk of our calls, especially now, are going to be about trees. You know, there's overgrowth, trees fell down in certain locations, especially when we're planting new trees. I think that's probably your biggest request that you get. So just thank you for your willingness to do it, and you guys have really good backgrounds for it. I dislike the Penn State stuff, but other than that, we can get over it, so. Why not? Why not?
So one of the things that always amazes me when people come to Pittsburgh for the first time, two of the comments they make, one of them is always about the view coming in from the Parkway when you see the city for the first time. And second, it's always about how green the city is, and they're amazed at the number of trees, the urban forest that we have here and that we support here and that we're committed to supporting here. And it does make a huge difference in quality of life, in crime reduction, in air quality, to help remediate landslides and all the other different problems that we wrestle with here on a daily basis. So the job is an important one, but I believe you're up to it, and I think you guys will do a great job. And I really appreciate that you're willing to come into public service. We need good people to volunteer for boards, authorities, and commissions. We can't do it without you, and you bring great qualifications, so I'm really looking forward to being able to work with you. Thanks. See, that was easy, wasn't it? Yeah. So we are going to, we'll have the vote next Tuesday, which is April the 16th, perhaps. Is that it, I believe? April 16th. There's no need for you to come back unless you'd like to, but we will have the vote for confirmation next Tuesday at our regular meeting. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Councilwoman Gross is on her way. She wishes to be present for the interview for Michael Domich, who's our appointee to the Pittsburgh Water and Sewer Authority. So, we're going to hold for just a few minutes till the councilwoman is able to get here. I guess we're going to have to recess if the councilwoman.
Can we do questions?
I think she would like to hear the opening statements and things. So let's at least wait another 5 minutes. And if the councilwoman isn't here, then we'll begin while she's on her way. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. So can have a motion just to recess, and we'll be back
Motion to
shortly.
recess.
Thank you. Okay. One. Okay, good morning, everyone, once again, and welcome back to this reconvened pre-agenda interview that we have here before we go into our standing committee meeting. Today, again, is Wednesday, April the 10th, 2019. We are here to consider Michael Domich's appointment to the Pittsburgh Water and Sewer Authority. So, Madam Clerk, may we please have the purpose of Bill 1536?
Bill 1536, resolution appointing Michael Domich as a member of the Pittsburgh Water and Sewer Authority for a term to expire on March 31st, 2023. Mr. Domich will fill a seat that had been vacant.
Okay, Mr. Domich, good morning. Can I call you Michael?
Mike's even better.
Mike, good morning, Mike. Welcome. You sat in on the last interview we had. We're going to ask you if you would please just tell us a little bit about yourself and the reason you'd like to serve on the PWSA board, and then we'll open it up. I'll begin with Councilwoman Gross, since she is our appointee to the PWSA board, and then we'll have other members that might wish to ask questions or offer comment. So, welcome.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, first of all, I'll just tell you a little bit more about myself. In terms of Pittsburgh, you can spot me cruising through Homeward to visit my dad in Penn Hills. I belong to the JCC, used to study music on the south side, and I enjoy going to Club Teutonia on the north side. I've been involved with water, I guess, since I've been 8 years old, through education, research, publishing results, and things like that. So it's those events that basically brought me here today, plus maybe some interesting history, which was not in my resume. When I was 13, my dad actually came back from Pittsburgh and said it was a pretty cool place. He's the guy that taught Iron City Brewing Company how to use Millipore filtration technology. So I have a long sort of history in trying to get better at the whole business sort of surrounding water. So I began in engineering, environmental engineering, organic chemistry, had an opportunity to go to Cornell University, and I realized I had to learn more about microbiology and biochemistry and things like that to sort of make sense of what was going on. And then from there, joined Carnegie Mellon. I guess I sort of took my dad's advice at 13 and came here, and here I am today. My interest in the PWSA is based on the interesting sort of juncture it's at. I've read the plans going forward for lead line replacement. I've been doing some research along the way, sort of double checking some of those plans and things, and also maybe not being fully sort of wondering why some decisions were made when they were made. So I've been deeply interested in water resources, and where PWSA is now positioned, I see a lot of interesting opportunities and things to make things improved in the system, and that's basically why I'm here today.
Thank you. You have a more than impressive resume. PhD, chemical engineering with microbiology and biochemistry from Cornell, a Bachelor of Science, chemical engineering with environmental engineering and chemistry concentrations, University of Massachusetts, and any number of experiences from 1983 to the present 2019. Your resume is
Thank
more
you.
than impressive.
Well, sometimes I explain it, I'm still trying to find something I do well.
Well, we all are doing that. I think that's just called life process. So, Councilwoman Gross, may I open up questions to you, please?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Domek, for your being here and your willingness to serve. I'm just looking through, obviously, you have a lot of published papers on very complicated biotechnology mostly, and is that what I'm seeing here? A lot of things in like biotech journals. Is that how you describe your background, or do we not have the right vocabulary here?
Well, there's also a journal of hazardous materials, environmental science and technology, proceedings of the National Academy of Science. So my work has touched environmental toxicology, Journal of Bacteriology, microbiology, and also biotechnology. They're actually all connected. You test for cryptosporidia through a magnetic immunoassay. That's molecular biology. So if you want to understand those assay procedures and results, you need to sort of understand aspects of microbiology and molecular biology. So that's, believe it or not, some logic behind my quest. When I graduated UMass Amherst, we learned about COD, BOD, TOC, things you probably have heard of in your reading reports. And I realized that was all black box. I needed to know more to understand really what those things mean and what's the dynamics behind them. So I look at my background as having penetrated numerous fields, and I think that's probably why the National Science Foundation's invited me 5 times to serve there in biological and environmental systems, setting up environmental observatories as well as other programs within NSF.
Speak a little bit more about your work at the National Science Foundation and kind of what is the role that's expected of you in the position that you served?
Yeah, I've been invited there 5 times, 2 times I accepted. Second time meant I guess I didn't screw up too bad the first time. So first time I was recruited by Fred Heineken, who was a program director in biological environmental systems, and he recruited me to help him set up a new program, actually 2 programs, and assist the environmental cluster with setting up a program in environmental observatories. Which
Can you speak a little bit to the scale of that work? So when you say set up a program at NSF, are you talking hundreds of people, dozens of people, a handful of people?
well, budget about $20 million.
Mm-hmm.
And
Is
then,
that with national research centers?
well, I also was involved with the Engineering Research Center program.
Mm-hmm.
So I've done a number of things. I've served as a program officer, which entails getting work reviewed and making decisions on whether a particular project gets funded or not. That's some of the more typical work that what are called rotators will do. National Science Foundation operates on the principle that about half the people there are quote-unquote permanent, the others are bringing fresh stuff in, or if they stink, they're not there that long. They leave after about a 2 or 3 year rotation period. So I did the panel, the proposal decision work. In addition, because of my background, I was asked to help set up some new funding programs. NSF's always looking for opportunities to try to coalesce work in science and engineering and trying to stimulate it on timely topics. So they're trying to stay ahead, or sometimes that also means they're responding to pressure from the community to do those things.
Can I ask, is there an opportunity that you could speak to where academic research was actually being deployed? So that's vocabulary that you use in other kinds of research centers where you're taking hypothetical academic studies and actually building them in the real world.
For my own sort of
Any experience that you had at NSF or in any of these other
Oh,
roles?
yeah. I've been involved with 4 engineering research centers where the whole design of those centers is there has to be a technical industrial affiliate program where they're part of the intellectual property development and dissemination.
So for example, something from one of those experiences that got actually built?
Okay, let's take the Biofilm Center in Bozeman, Montana.
Great.
Where I served there for 6 years as a reviewer to sort of make sure they were doing what they were supposed to be doing. From there, technologies came out and got licensed to sort of slow and stymie the dispersion of non-aqueous phase dense liquids. In other words, groundwater
From
pollution.
mining?
Well, it can be from mining, which of course is a big deal in
Okay, so
Pennsylvania.
you got to oversee the environmental cleanup in Montana? Am I understanding the vocabulary here?
Stated that extensively. As a member of the NSF review team, my job amongst the other people that were on the team was to evaluate the utility of that work, the extent at which it was
So you were
successful.
taking samples? How did the evaluation go? I'm sorry, I'm trying to translate this very multisyllabic academic research papers into,
Looking
the real
Sure.
world that we can see
Looking
and
at
touch.
the results of field trials at a small scale,
Okay, so you were looking at the data,
basically. Okay.
but nothing was built?
It's licensed technology. There's other technologies out there to do it, and in that case, there was some use of the technology.
Okay. Any other kind of public sector board experience? I have the professional experience being the NSF, or again, you were evaluating research proposals and choosing what kind of research would be funded.
Right.
And teaching?
Oh, yeah.
And lots of teaching.
Yeah, I mean, we're all expected to teach what we're asked to teach at Carnegie Mellon. So, yeah, I've taught everything from freshmen to graduate students to high school students coming in and want to learning a little bit about water analysis and what's going on in their backyards.
Great, great. So you raised earlier the concerns that you had about the lead water service line replacement project. You want to speak to that a little bit?
Well, first of all, this kind of goes back and addresses your first question. There's been academic studies that show that asymmetric replacement is actually worse than no replacement,
You mean public side only and not private side?
either or.
Yeah. So if you're replacing, could you say a little bit for Pittsburghers who have maybe a partial lead water service line or maybe even both lead and lead on both sides, how do you describe to them what asymmetric replacement means?
Either what connects to the curb box is lead or copper. In other words, of the two connections from the service main to the curb box to the house, if one of those is lead and one of those is copper, and it can be in either order, that is not a very good combination because you swap surface corrosion for galvanic corrosion.
You want to have full line replacement.
Exactly.
And you're aware that the board also had to lobby the state to do the full line replacement and got the permission to do so?
That's one of those days I cheered everybody.
I'm glad. Okay,
That-
good. I just
that
wanted to
was-
make sure that you were happy that we did that.
No, that was perfect.
And it was a challenge because we were held in violation and fined 1.8 million by DEP, but then we settled and got to keep that money here in Pittsburgh to do even more full line replacements.
I think, what people need to understand and step back is it's bigger than Pittsburgh, it's bigger than Flint. It goes to the UK. I brought here the cover page from an article from the American Medical Association from 1852 that talked about public health sickness from lead service lines in Massachusetts. So this has been an ongoing sort of struggle and battle and debates between what the numbers mean and so on. So Pittsburgh is it's maybe small consolation, but Pittsburgh's in a very large club on a global scale for this problem.
I actually have talked to people in Europe who, even in their condo building, they have to raise the money for their line replacement, right? It's not being publicly funded. And so I think we're kind of at the forefront in
That is
this,
true.
pursuing this goal, we have a long way to go yet, but so you're supportive of public funding for the full line replacements?
Absolutely. In fact, I've talked to, I think, some people in, not your district, Squirrel Hill, that have had both lines replaced. And myself, I've actually run the PWSA through the paces with sampling my own water.
Good, good. We continue to encourage people to do the tap testing, and, you know, we're still trying to ascertain where all those lines are.
I posted it on my meager Facebook page with all my 30 friends could see.
Good, 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 good. Yes, so anyone out there listening, please get your water tested. We didn't keep track for 100 years, so we just don't know which of the 85,000 or so homes in the city actually have the maybe 15,000 lead lines that are still out there. And every day we get closer to knowing more of where they are, but as we find them, we're replacing them, right? So I see that you said you oversaw a $20 million kind of grant funding, but not really a budget. Have you managed budgets? Have you been on organizations that had to do budgetary decisions?
I mean, I don't like it, but I'm actually fairly decent at a number of things I don't like to do.
As is true of all of us. So
Yeah.
there are
I mean,
decisions to be made about what priorities, right? To which things you can't fund everything, so which things to fund.
Yeah, and I was just part of a division within the engineering directorate, so as a team, we had to sort of decide what our priorities were in the partitioning of that budget. And at the NSF, you have to be very careful. There was, changing rules, obviously, and you had to avoid mortgaging your program, which meant you could put awards you could pay the whole cost up front or do it on a continuing basis. So you didn't want to basically zero out the program for the next person to come in to not be able to make decisions. So yeah, there was significant, every year, budgetary arm wrestling and kibitzing and surveillance, make sure.
Right. We have a lot of, we work, I think, amongst us, and I'll just bring this up even though it's not reflected in your resume. It's really important to this council that we review how we are subcontracting, both at the city budget of, over 500 million a year and at the PWCA budget of nearly 200 million a year in operating, that we are aware of the diversity of businesses that we're using, right? So we work at women-owned businesses, MBEs, WBEs. I can't keep all the acronyms straight now. DVB, the veterans and diverse. So we're trying to find a rubric to put all those into. And so it's one of the things that's really been in front of us, and we're working hard at it at PWCA as well.
So
a lot of the work that is actually done out there today is not done by public sector employees. It's done by subcontracted consultants. So that is it's an area of discussion as we're looking at these budgets and how best to do the work. In some cases, I made a big deal at PWSA board the other month because there was work to be done at the water plant and we couldn't get a consultant online quickly enough. And we ended up saving money by doing it in-house with employees. And we wouldn't have been able to say that a few years ago. We've really had to rebuild our capacity in our internal employee resources after kind of going too far in the other direction using Veolia Corporation as an operating and management entity, and they had kind of decimated our internal capacity.
That was a big issue at NSF, the use of subcontractors and contractors, also DOE.
And it feels like, in the 1990s and 2000s, there was a swing too far in one direction, and now we're kind of rebuilding our public sector capacity.
Yeah, we noticed a lot of diminishing returns, plus just the paperhead and the overhead.
Yes.
To, make the arrangement.
Yes. So we're all kind of exploring where it's more appropriate, where it's less appropriate to use these kinds of subcontracting. So I'm glad you have some experience there. It's a really current topic. It feels like we're talking about it almost every week here. Okay, I think that might be my question for now. But let me just leave one more thing. Since I'm looking at a resume so full of biomedical, biotechnology experience, you know that also the work we've been doing with DEP that I think of as a mid-range interim step, right? Like the first public health protection that we launched 2 years ago was to buy water filters for every household with children because we just didn't know where the lead lines were. We're trying to find the lead lines, and we're trying to replace all of the lead lines, but that will take a long time. Hopefully less than 10 years from where we are now. It's if we can keep the funding levels up, we can do that. But the mid-range is the orthophosphates. And since I'm looking at an expert, do you want to speak to that a little bit? Because they're about to go live.
Yeah, you probably see the word polyphosphate and phosphate in maybe some of the things I've done. What exactly would you like me to comment on the orthophosphate? Just the general, is it a good idea? What's the experience with it?
If briefly, both things I think are on all of our minds and on the public's mind as well. Again, this is something that DEP has been working out with us now for 2 years.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't want to do it forever, but
Well, okay.
when you're weighing the relative risks, where Pittsburgh is right now, because this will be a decision that you will have to make.
Yeah.
Right? We're spending money to replace the lead lines, right? $50 million this year from the state, part of it grant, part of it on a 1% 20-year loan. And we're also deploying the orthophosphates for the interim to do the line coating.
Here's the big picture. You never play with carbonate. That's why we're here today. Orthophosphate is generally recognized as a reasonable prescription for the lead leaching problem, especially in surface waters that have a reasonable amount of hardness. Basically, to build up the deposits on the pipe wall.
Right.
Some people will pitch polyphosphate, which is a different version, but that actually can exacerbate the lead leaching problem
Exacerbate.
by serving as a chelator. So what you're doing
Like
is
pulling it off the lines.
Yeah, kind of encouraging it to leave and putting it out in the solution. So it's a totally reasonable and accepted thing to do. In fact, if you read the Viola final report for the Flint Water District, it's a very interesting read. It'll be interesting to see where that case goes. The beginning starts with the scope of the work that says nothing about lead. Then deeper in the report, one of the bullet items and recommendations is to establish a level of 0.5 milligrams per liter orthophosphate in the water.
They must have known.
Yeah. So it's a perfectly sensible and reasonable thing to do. What I'd be interested in is, as these lead lines are getting replaced, is anybody keeping samples and sending them to places so they can kind of like get a little bit of history of what's going on here. You mentioned there's some leading going on now with replacing both lines. There may be some other opportunities to kind of lead, because going back to where we began today, this is way bigger than a Pittsburgh
really
problem.
is.
In fact, Pittsburgh maybe is getting off a little light.
Interesting perspective. I'll stop now. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman O'Connor.
Yes. Obviously, you know your stuff on chemicals and things like that, so I'm going to sort of take a different
Or
approach.
I could look it up.
Yeah, right. I'm going to take a business approach.
Fine.
So I'll just ask, I have a couple simple questions. So one is, where would you stand on a privatization of a public authority?
I've thought a lot about that, and I can answer that from a business perspective or a philosophical perspective. Let's start with business.
Yeah.
Aqua just acquired a gas company, so they're 70-30 water gas. They're anticipating 7% growth revenue on the gas side, 4% on the water side. They may not get that. They're going to issue more stock. They're going to dilute their stock. They may not. Their dividend is the highest in the water sector, so they may not be able to support their dividend. Because of Act 12, rates will have to go up. So no matter what, rates are going up. So I would suggest to position PWSA in a much stronger point. This is the first time Pittsburgh really has maybe control over its water supply compared to the past. In the late 1800s, the water supply was entirely privatized by individual people. Pittsburgh led in cholera and typhus deaths per 100,000 people. Then industry basically owned the rivers. So the plan is good. The lead line replacement is a long-term great fix. If Aqua comes in and let them raise the rates, there's going to be two private water companies here now. How's that going to shake out? Nobody has a choice. You pay whoever you're connected to.
Right, yeah.
So I just don't see it as a good move right now.
No, that's good. That's I think a lot of people would be relieved. I know a board member would be relieved to hear that
And
as well, and a lot of council members.
I paid Aqua in North Carolina also.
So just a follow-up
Another
on that, and then this is the end of my questions. So, and Councilman Gross and I have spoken about this. So the city and PWSA has a 2025 agreement where PWSA basically gets the asset for $1. And, you know, as it stands now, they're making very good changes, and the direction seems to be going in the right way. So I don't have an issue with going with PWSA for a long-term contract. My only issue is that if we, the city, give that up to PWSA without some provision in that agreement, and we could figure out how to write it, but basically, I'm saying that within that provision, I just want something that says you cannot privatize, or you have to go through a process that comes back to this council for whatever that might be. And again, we need to work on that terminology, and I think a lot of people would feel more comfortable with the 2025 agreement, knowing that PWSA, and in 2025, I know it's down the road, but it'll be here before you know it. And when you get to 2020, and maybe this is more a statement than an answer right now, but just something to think about. When agreements come to this table, for us, we would like, and the general public should have a say in that 2025 agreement. Whomever's on that board at that time gets it for $1. We need some protections that the day after they buy it for $1, they can't sell it.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's where I'm sort of getting to, that would you support something like that? And again, I think Councilwoman Gross has done a very good job. PWSA needs some support on that board as well, to know that, you know, board members are going to be supportive of that agreement, but knowing that there's got to be accountability if somebody were to talk about that. That's basically my point.
Yeah, well, I think that comes down to just philosophy and intellectual honesty. I mean, basically, Act 12 is kind of unleashing a whole set of flip operations, what you can call it. So if you give somebody something for $1 and they can flip it, I mean, that's not right.
Exactly. So yeah, that's my point. I just want to hear that you agree with that, and that, you know, when some agreement comes to this table, especially the 2025 one, we need to look at language that gives us some oversight in stopping a system like that. So thank you.
Welcome. Yeah.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Harris.
Thank you for your willingness to serve. I really like your resume.
Thank you.
Usually you don't see something where somebody that really knows what they're doing.
Or I can look it up. And generally figure it out.
But I wanted to just go back because you said you could talk on it. And politically, when things change, when administrations change, things change, but they're not constant, they're not wiped out. And that's what happened with the people that were really leading PWSA at that time, if you were following any of that. And our chemist, who's known very well around the world.
Stanley.
Stanley, yes.
I plan to meet with him.
He's wonderful. I mean, I have never met him, but
He's well known.
he's very, very well known. And, you know, to have him wiped out and the lead people, and then to bring in the consultant that was there at that time to lead PWSA, I think was the biggest mistake in the world.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but I
No.
have some major questions about that. Chapter 17 of the Operator's Handbook and Exam Guide
Right.
says operators are supposed to keep logs. It's not a statutory requirement. I'm just curious. Well, this may be an offline discussion,
No,
but
I'd
yeah,
like to know, and I know there's a lot of people out there
Yeah, I have questions.
that destroyed basically, and now it's costing the ratepayers millions of dollars. And then he pulled on somebody, his friends and that, to help out. And I can't remember the name of the chemical that they had put in.
Caustic soda.
That's it.
It's a fancy name. Well, it's an unfancy name for sodium hydroxide. So they switched from, actually, the ironic thing is, from DEP, they put out the Water Treatment System Operator's Guide and Exam Manual. The example they give in the back on a standard operating procedure is the bicarbonate addition procedure. Exactly what was replaced. And that's the example they put in Appendix D in the manual. Just a little irony, I guess.
But they said it would be a cheaper chemical, and it was.
Short term.
And even if you looked it up on the internet, it told you that it was taking the corrosion off of the pipes as it went down. And then that's the first we ever heard of lead, and because the lead pipes are soft, I'm assuming that's how we ended up with all this lead in the water. And I was really upset at that political move, that's the only thing I can call it at that time. And then they brought back Stanley. Well, once it's done, it's hard to go back and to get up pipes like crazy. And I think they owe it to the ratepayers that if they have a line in the house, that they do all the work associated with that, because if they don't, then they're going to get their attorneys and they're going to do it anyhow. But that's probably one of the most disappointing pieces that happened there. So I was pleased, and Deb's a pretty good board member, I have to say.
That's really good questions.
Yes, she does.
She knows what she's doing.
And I talked to the DEP, and they couldn't trust PWSA. I mean, there was a time where there was a real trust. And now...
Darlene, I think, can you move the mic back a little bit? They're very loud right now.
Well, what they really need to do is get rid of these and bring back mics like we had, so if you turn your head, people can still hear you.
Cone of silence and get smart.
Yeah, this mic is... yeah, that's another conversation. If you know anything about mics, let's talk about that later.
No. Know a little something about shade trees, though.
But
He can look it up. He told us.
It did cost a lot of money. It took the trust from DEP, which PWSA had for all those years. And he ended up asking a chemist to come back and some of the other people to help out after they politically blew it apart. So now, I was wondering, what number do you think it would be at with these pipes and doing the pipes underground plus the ones in the home? Do you think of ballpark figure of what that's going to cost the ratepayers by the time they're done?
The water distribution system,
Well, the pipes, after they put, the chemical in, and also all the lead pipes.
Yeah, I'd have to sit down and run a spreadsheet to, I don't have a number at the top of my head on that.
If you...
Sorry, this isn't normal, but we're doing nearly 5,000 this year for roughly $50 million.
Yeah,
There's
it's
roughly
sort of
another
budget limited at the
15,000
moment.
left, so be roughly 150 million. That
$150
it's
million.
still, again, since we haven't ascertained exactly where they all are, it's hard to say.
$150 million for
For 1,000, yeah.
because of politics.
I mean,
Because they're 100 years old.
Well, I wouldn't say that because I loved PWSA water. I could sit down, and you know how Coke and Pepsi, people put the blindfold on?
Yeah.
I could have American water here and PWSA water here. And I could tell you the difference with a blindfold on.
well, I mean, I'm
No matter where we have ever went, I've
a little
taken
more
my...
partial to the Allegheny than the Mon myself, so.
But
Water is not great.
do you think there is any possible way to get it back to where it was before this complete disaster?
There have been cases in other municipalities where phosphate has improved the problem. In Flint, they did a combination of going back to Lake Huron and phosphate, and they were able to kind of get back to where they were. So I think, the odds are better than 50-50. The problem with water distribution systems is, and we understand the chemistry and we know all the details, but it's the time-evolved history that's kind of key to how things ultimately play out. And it may take a while to get these passivation or kind of like gook layers set back up on these pipes. But in the meantime, the right thing's being done. People got the opportunity. I took advantage of it just to test the system. They get tested, filters, and the lead line replacement, both lines, is key. And that's, I think, that's about the best that can be done at the moment. And just keep testing.
Okay. And this other chemical that they want to put in that sort of corrodes the pipes, again, is how I'm seeing it. You think it's the right thing to do?
What other chemical?
Deb, do you remember the name of the chemical?
It's the orthophosphates that we were just talking about.
Yeah. I mean, the way to think about it is our bones and teeth, a lot of it is a combination of calcium and phosphate. Makes kind of like a hard sort of precipitate solid thing. So the orthophosphate is what can interact with the other species and then some of the leach materials from the pipe and coat it. Another thing to think about is when the last lead line both are replaced, may not need orthophosphate anymore.
Okay.
In fact, it's probably not a good thing to be putting phosphate in rivers and having them go downstream.
Okay, and why is that?
Well,
I'm asking these questions.
Well, it's sort of a major micronutrient for algal blooms and things like that. So back when I was young, they took phosphate out of like laundry detergent.
Dishwashing detergent.
Yeah. Industrial sources and others can still use phosphate in there. It's called a builder or and something like that. For that very reason, that when it flows into the western basin of Lake Erie and other places, so not only would it save cost, it'd be like a nice thing to do to the receiving waters is to lower the phosphate going in. Like we don't have, as far as I understand, an algae problem in the Allegheny, and the treatment process Alcosan does will kind of benefit from some of the phosphate PWSA puts in. But in the long run, after progress is made, either through the orthophosphate treatment and passivating these lines could drop it down or maybe ultimately eliminate it. So.
Okay. Because I would like to get back to, we drink bottled water now, and I think probably 95% of the people that I know are drinking bottled water because of the issue, and I'd like to get back to where I can put a glass under the spigot and drink it. And I think you're the best person that they could find now to be on the board. You and Deb.
Thank you.
And the rest of the board, I think I'm impressed. I'm very, very impressed.
I like water. I'm not Stanley.
I like water. And, well, Stanley, they had to bring him back as a consultant. And a few of the other people to start talking to. But it was the biggest mistake I've ever seen. And it bothered me because it was something that I enjoyed.
Yeah, that's not the first time I've heard that. So.
Okay, so let me see if there's anything else. Later on, before you leave, I'd really like to get your phone number. So
Absolutely.
if I have any questions in between, the new guy that they brought from Boston, I think he is, he's a good person. And some of the people that they took and put in over there, like the attorney and a few other people, I think they're good people. So I am really glad that you're here, and there are people over there that are really good. And they work very hard, and they're working very hard to try to resolve this problem that came in. So that's all I'm gonna say right now.
Thank you.
All I can say is glad you're here, and I'm wondering if you guys were there when this all started happening and they started taking people off the board and the chemist and everything else. Might not have happened that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Kell-Smith.
Thank you. Thank you for your willingness to serve. I'm actually messaging people now, asking if they know about it. But anyway, I want to thank you for your willingness to serve. I'll be honest with you, I haven't confirmed any of the previous board members, current board members. I've voted in opposition of most of them, except for my colleague and folks that by law have to serve on the board, and I had no choice. So, because I have such huge concern with what's, and as many people, of what's been occurring at PwC. And you've been asked just about every question there has been to ask about the privatization, the chemicals, you talked about the orthophosphate and into the rivers and the damage it could do there. But someone had also mentioned to us that there was concern that even if we put that chemical in now, down the road eventually, I mentioned this Councilwoman Gross, eventually we'll have the same result that we have now with when Veolia tried treating the lead in the water, and it eventually will erode, because unless you're repairing the pipes, it doesn't matter what chemical you put in. Is that true? Do you know? I'll be honest, my father was a chemical engineer from Carnegie Mellon, and so, I mean, he's not here anymore, and so I wish I had him to ask, because
Yeah,
he treated
understand.
water. That was one of the things he did, so I wish he was here. And my brother was a dean at Carnegie Mellon.
Well, all I can tell you is the chemistry suggests that the results will depend also on chlorine, nitrate, and sulfate levels. So there's a bunch of competing sort of things that can go on. So there's nothing wrong with trying it. It's exactly one of the things they did in Flint
Okay.
to try and fix things. Can you guarantee it's going to be back to normal? I'm afraid not.
So that's my concern, is that we're going to go down this road and end up with the same result. So I'm not an engineer. I don't know chemicals. And so I'd like to have a further conversation about that, because that is a concern. I mentioned it to Councilwoman Gross. I'd like to learn a little bit more about it and know that we're not going to go down the road and have the same result that with all this money later, all this effort later, all this buildup later, and then have the same results.
Well, if you're replacing the lead service lines,
Right. But
That's where the lead comes from. I mean,
Right,
some
but
will
we're
come
not
from
doing it
galvanic corrosion of
simultaneously.
the solder in the joints and the plumbing in the house.
but some won't be replaced as they're getting the treatment, correct? Well, let's have that conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funding. Well, I don't care if it's funding. To me, that's the problem. Everything's based on funding, which brings me to my next question is, I've heard a lot about the privatization, which I care deeply about, although I disagree that the average citizen should have something to say about that. We're not engineers. Most people don't know about engineering. Most people don't know about chemicals. And so I don't know that we should have a say in what happens to the water authority and play politics with our water, because I think that's what got us to where we are today, is because there was too much politics involved.
yeah.
Although I do think that there should be some accountability from council being on the board, or having a board presence, or approving the board, the nominees. I do think that should happen, but I think we're the voice of the people. But we can do our research and try to find things out to make sure that we're doing the best we can. So I think I have some difference of opinion there, but overall, I don't think the general public should be playing politics with our water. I mean, it's frustrating to me, because this is our water, and it's really, it's aggravating. So the other thing I would say is, I want to know how you're going to advocate for green infrastructure projects.
Well, I can show you a picture of mine.
So here's my concern, okay? Everybody's talking about green infrastructure projects, which are great. They're phenomenal if they work right. And if they don't work right, you end up with what we ended up in our district in Banksville, $1 million later, tons of money, and they are flooding worse than they ever have. And so I'd want to see the green infrastructure projects done right, not just done, not just to put a check on the column saying we've done them. I want
Absolutely.
them done right, and I want to know what we're going to do to advocate to make sure that the current projects, which are failing, are done correctly, and that those issues are resolved. So could you talk about that at all? How would you advocate for that?
Well, I have to go on a project-by-project basis, sort of give them my own sort of look over. One way I've been sort of advocating in my own little corner of the universe is disconnecting, for example, I think you would call it disconnecting your roof from the water main wastewater treatment system is kind of a green thing, right? Lower the infiltration of roof water into the system. In fact, it's hard to get a permit to hook up. So, how do you do that, and why would you do that? What a lot of people don't understand is the existing drain from the roof to the sewer, after all these years, is filled with so much stuff, it's choke flow. So in my case, this connection I did and setting up my own little green project, not only did it work, my basement is dry, and my neighbor likes me a lot better now.
So my concern is that I want to make sure that the projects that are outstanding, and they've been outstanding for quite some time. Banksville has been flooding for over a year, and I think it's unconscionable that this has been allowed to go on for so long, that people are flooding 4 feet of water in their homes at any unexpected time. They never know when it's going to happen. So I'd like to see those issues addressed immediately. And as far as the privatization, I used to think that we had such a great rapport with Penn American. And I'll be honest with you, after this last week, having some similar issues with projects failing or not working in the way that the residents had hoped, also in Banksville with Penn American, I can tell you that I feel pretty similar that Penn American and PwC don't differ that much in the terms of actually taking responsibility when something doesn't work right. So for me, I would just like to see us do well by the residents and make sure. And when we're talking about the increase in the cost and the rates, I think that we should look at everything that we can before we continue to just assume that the rates are going to increase. I mean, we know that I hear everybody saying they're going to increase, but I want to make sure that you turned over every cushion and looked at every dime before you increase those rates anymore. Our residents are struggling really hard to live in the city. It shouldn't be this difficult to live in the city of Pittsburgh, but between the utilities and the water company and the other things that are happening, things we're charging permits for and fees for that we've never charged. It just shouldn't be this difficult. And so I'll be honest with you, I'm going to talk to a lot more people before I decide. Your resume looks amazing. You sound amazing. I think that part of what PwSA board is lacking is somebody who's actually been on the ground, somebody who's actually a resident who's actually gone through a lot of the struggles. I think there's a lot of great people with a lot of skills and a lot of knowledge. We don't necessarily have the people that actually went through the struggle. So I just want to, but I want to thank the administration because they've been bringing forward a lot of great names, and yours being one of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael, for being with us this morning.
You're welcome.
And we'll have our vote next Tuesday, April 16th. And I appreciate your time here this morning. Thank you so very much. Okay, we are going to go into our regular standing committee meeting. And I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll, and then we'll go into public comment. Yeah, let's just call the roll, and then we'll go into public comment, okay?
Mr. Coghill, Mrs. Gross.
Here.
Mrs. Harris. President Kraus.
Here.
Mr. Lavelle, Mr. O'Connor. Mrs. Kell Smith.
Here.
Mrs. Strasburger, Reverend Burgess. 5 members present.
Okay, all right, we have 5 members present. Our first...
Thank you very much.
No, we had pre-agenda, Councilwoman. Okay. Okay, we are, I'm going to ask for order, please. Okay, thank you very much. So our first order of business will be public comment. Anyone, hi, Anthony, thank you, welcome.
6, there you go.
Anyone, may we have order, please?
Say that you're after the time frame.
Sweet Jesus. Okay, so our
It's not
first,
fair to the people.
may we have, thank you, may we have order, please? Our first order of business will be public
Point of order, I would like to.
I'm not going to entertain,
On
Councilwoman, I'm not going to entertain.
Robert's
Our first
Rules of
order
Order.
of business will be public comment. Anyone wishing to speak before City Council this morning, of course, will have 3 minutes in which to do so. We ask that you would please begin by giving your name and the neighborhood in which you reside for our public record. The green light will indicate the start of your 3 minutes. When the yellow light comes on, you'll have 1 minute to summarize your thoughts. When the red light comes on, your time will have expired. I would like to remind everyone that our rules of council are clear, that comment is limited to matters of concern or official action which are at this time or could at another time come before this council. We do not permit profanity, and we will maintain order at all times. May we have our first speaker, please? May we have our first speaker, please?
My name is Yvonne F. Brown. And you know what? I look at Jens, and I was sitting back there praying because you're disgusting. Yesterday, when I looked at the schedule, your good clerical staff, it was 3:28. Was nothing on that board about a meeting today. She put it up there yesterday, and it says the 5th, and it was after I left. So you just have interview at 9:30. I'm going to court, and I'm going to see how the laws say you start at 10. You won't come at 10, but you can make a meeting at 9:30. And keep it over till 10:35, 10:45. You say we're supposed to be here at 10. Please forgive me. I'm getting so that you could disrespect us like this. Not just me, but the other people. When they turn on at 10 and you're sitting there at the table with somebody else, they turn it off. They don't think we're going to speak. Again, I protest because there was not a notice about this 9:30 meeting. If you can make it at 9:30, it can have a meeting. Why can't you make it at 10? Sometimes it's 2 at 10, 1 at 10. But Mr. Burgess, see, I'm a little bit upset. I didn't want to be upset. I tried to pray. Because they told me about Mr. Burgess. And he was talking about the kids and people being killed and dying. And my friend said he looked like he was breaking up about the deaths. And it hit me in my stomach. Because when my son got killed, he knew it, and he hired the garbage men. And here's the paper where he said he wanted to hire the policemen because the garbage men did such a good job. Even though he know my son, there was some circumstances that should have been answered. He's a reverend. God will deal with you for that. When you said that I asked you to help write a letter because you speak so well, you said, see, Sean, but when you got the job here, you went to the different heads. I'm the councilman if you need me. They don't need you. The different heads don't need you. We need you. We need you. And you're going to answer them because you couldn't even speak up for my son. You said garbage men because the garbage men did such a good job that the fire policemen should be. They let a lady die. These serial killers. And nothing has been done by my son. Even the mayor won't help me. I'm going to the governor. Fetterman, if he can hear me, because he fought for the black baby. Somebody need to fight for us.
Dr. Ronald N. Miller, Beltuva around Lawrenceville, Global Intelligence Society candidate for President 2020. I think what you did this morning was really wonderful. And Ms. Gross, I think your questions to Dr. Domek were really on the point. On a 0 to 10 scale, I would say 9+. I would say that tetraalkyl ammonium cation and polyoxotungstate anion form an ionic liquid that is the basis of a composite material that rids water of most types of contaminants. This is from the Journal of the American Chemical Society, of which I'm a member, and so is the American Society for Microbiology as well. This was very exciting. I wish more meetings were like this. I thought your questions were really great, too. Anyway, I can't say the same thing about the proclamation from yesterday. I have a lot of questions about the whereases, 1, 2, 3 through 9. The first sentence, the first whereas includes proposed and urging as a sentence, in the sentence, and I don't know what sense it makes. Whereas 2, I'd just like you to clarify what clean water means. You know, deuterium oxide is water, but it's heavy water. It's got a neutron connected to the proton, so would that be water? Would that be non-clean water? See? Whereas 3, pollution, degradation, destruction. What's the difference? Just choose one word. More power. Whereas 4, you're mixing acres and square miles, but not using kilometers and so on. But today we use liters and grams. I'd rather use the metric. I think that's better worldwide. Whereas 5, what are the sources for your statistics? You know, 63, 21,000, and 2.8 billion, you know, but you don't say what the sources are. I think you should do that. Whereas 6, the wetlands are functioning as a filtration. You know, fungi love wetlands, but Candida auris is not filtrated through our water system. It is one of the most dangerous microbes on the planet. So I would say, whereas 7, proposed rollback, but you don't say from where to where, you need to do that. Whereas 8, strong federal standards, but can you name one of them? I'd like to know what you think that would be. You have, whereas 9, 1,000 peer-reviewed scientific studies. Can any of you name 3? Can you name one outside of the list you have in front of you because of the resume of Dr. Domek? You know, just let us know what you know. You know, that would be helpful, more helpful. You can have 2 pages. I've seen many proclamations and wills of council that do that. So overall, improve it that way.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please. I had gotten a message from Mr. Gable, but I don't see his staff here. So if you would then, okay. Would you, next speaker, please. I don't think there's any other speakers. Next speaker, please. Please then begin the roll call.
We called it already.
All right, thank you very much. That takes us to the first committee of the day, which is Finance and Law Committee, of which I am the chair. We have a deferred paper.
Bill 1338, ordinance amending, supplementing, and correcting the Pittsburgh Code at Title II, Fiscal Article 1, Operating Budget, so as to add contract and bid information requirements to fiscal impact statements and to further correct numbering and formatting.
Need a motion? Any conversation? No conversation? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposers, nay. You can read the next four bills together, please.
Bill 1469, resolution authorizing the mayor and the city solicitor to enter into a professional services agreement with Fox Rothschild in an amount not to exceed $110,000 for professional consulting and legal services in relation to False Claim Act litigation. Bill number 1491, resolution for issuing of a warrant for invoices totaling $4,092.23 in favor of D. Apollonia Engineering related to evaluation of slope conditions. Bill number 1508, resolution authorizing the issuance of a warrant in favor of Gabriel Despres and his attorney in an amount not to exceed $77,500 in settlement of federal litigation. Bill number 1509, resolution authorizing the issuance of a warrant in the total sum of $95,000 payable as follows: $1,287 in favor of Allegheny County Central Tax Collection District, $37,485.20 in favor of the law offices of Joel Sanson, $56,227.80 in favor of Don DeFleece Jacamas in full and final settlement of a labor relations case.
Need a motion? Motion to approve. Need a second? Second. Any conversation? No conversation? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposers, nay. You may read the next two bills together, please.
Bill 1530, resolution authorizing the issuance of a warrant in favor of Tucker Independent Medical Experts in an amount not to exceed $9,900 for professional services in connection with litigation. Bill number 1531, resolution providing for the issuance of warrant in the total sum of $5,000 in favor of Linda Green as final settlement related to the action filed in the Common Pleas Court of Allegheny County.
I need a motion to hold for executive session. So moved. Need a second? Second. Any conversation? No conversation? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposers, nay. It takes us to the invoices. The invoices are on the table. I need a motion for the invoices. Motion to approve. Need a second? Need a second?
Second.
Any conversation of the invoices? No conversation for the invoices. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposers, nay. There are no interdepartmental transfer. There are P cards, but in order, just like last week, and I will just say it up front, I will need a motion to waive the rules for the invoices because we had, just like last week, there are 6 more purchases on this week's list that exceed our $3,000 limit. These purchases were for the security of the trial verdict and protest of the Antoine Rose case. This should complete the P card purchases for this event. So first, I need a motion to waive the rules of council. Need a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Now I need a motion to approve the P cards. Need a second.
Second.
All right, any conversations about the P cards? No conversation about the P cards. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposers, nay. That takes us now to the Public Works Committee, of which Mrs. Kell Smith is the chair. All right, we have a new paper. I'm not sure. Is this the one? Is this the one that Marcel's here for? Which one is she?
Oh, she may be, yeah.
Is this the bill?
Yeah,
For which one?
Both of the Public Works bills.
Both the bills? All right, that's fine. We're in Public Works Committee. Ms. Kell Smith is the chair. If you read the new bill, then please.
Bill 1535, resolution authorizing the mayor and director of the Department of Public Works to apply for grant funding from the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources Community Conservation Partnership Program to provide funding for renovations of the South Side Park. The grant proposal included an ask of $400,000 with a local match of $400,000 that would be allocated in the 2020 City of Pittsburgh capital budget. In the event the grant is awarded, this resolution provides for an agreement and expenditures not to exceed $800,000 for this stated purpose.
Need a motion, Ms. Smith.
motion to approve.
Second.
Second, any conversation? No conversation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Takes us to the next bill, please.
Bill,
Ms. Harris,
Yes,
yes.
I had to step out of the room a minute, so I'll vote aye on the bills. And are we having an executive session on the other two?
We are having, yes, we're having, we made a motion to hold for executive session.
Okay, great. So I'm aye on all the other
All right,
bills.
thank you very much. Takes us to the second bill.
Bill 1538, Resolution amending Resolution 827, authorizing the Director of Public Works to create a veteran banner program to waiver or reduce certain fees per Section 41602 of the Pittsburgh Code to hang banners approved by the Director of Public Works at specific approved locations in the city by removing the approval of Art Commission.
Need a motion, Ms. Smith.
Motion to approve
Need a second.
Second.
with discussion?
Discussion, Ms. Smith.
Yeah. Well, I think everyone knows that I put the veteran banner legislation in probably about 3-4 years ago, maybe even longer. And we have still struggled to get those banners up, and they did so successfully in Councilwoman Gross's district because they had a nonprofit to help. But we're struggling still, and Councilwoman Gross put in some legislation. So I'm going to defer to her, but I want to come back to this topic because I really have a lot to say about it myself.
Ms. Gross.
Thank you. So part of the, I think, well, the amendment that I submitted a week ago, that's not your yellow sheet of paper, just shifted the approval process away from our commission into the city's graphic standard, which is more in line with just a temporary banner installation, right? And not, a giant public sculpture or large mural or something like that. And I think everyone is supportive there. In addition, I haven't had a chance to talk to the councilwoman about this because my staff just called me about this morning. So if we aren't comfortable today, that's fine. There's a yellow sheet of paper here to amend this legislation because the amendment I submitted a week ago had the whole approval process still under DPW, but it is the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure that issues permits in the right-of-way now. So that's simply what the yellow sheet of paper says. It strikes out DPW and puts in Department of Mobility and Infrastructure.
And is that in the form of a motion?
So, not yet, I would just,
I'm good.
because I hadn't had a chance to talk to the council
I'm
about
good.
it. You're
I'm good.
supportive? Okay, so I'll motion to amend.
Need a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Now we're on the amended
Now we're on
bill.
this.
Ms. Gross still has the floor. Ms. Smith has deferred. We will come back to her
Right,
after Ms. Gross is done.
Absolutely. So the city's graphic standard could address all of the needs that we need for these kinds of installations, and so I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you very much. That takes it back to Ms. Smith.
So I just want to thank Councilman Gross, and I did want to be added as a co-sponsor on these bills as well, as this bill as well. But I do want to know, I think, part of the conversation is that we have a lot of questions about the Art Commission. They seem to have an inflated sense of whom they are and their responsibilities, as far as I'm concerned. When so much has to go to the Art Commission that's already been approved by DPW, including and by Planning Commission and others, including our playgrounds and others, I think there's a significant number of council members that are going to look into that commission and make some changes and identify what it is they really will do and will not have a say on. I don't know that playgrounds and parks and things that they have been taking on, and including some of the banners. When our residents in Squirrel Hill had gone to them before previous years for banners, those banners were questioned. Our veteran banners being questioned, and the style and design and all this. They're not. They're just to decide what the safety is, whether they're uniform, whether there's. They're not supposed to determine the style, and of everything. That's because art is subjective. Some people may like something, some people may not. They can suggest things, they can do, but what I understand is that, sort of like some of our other commissions, they're taking a more of an aggressive stance on what their role is, and I think that council is going to look at not just the Art Commission, but a few other commissions where we're having some concerns, and we're going to start addressing some of these things because, conversations and working with folks have not helped until you go to the administration. Then I will be honest, it usually helps me, but that shouldn't be the process. We shouldn't have to go to the administration for something to work well. It should just work well, and I don't think that this does. So I want to thank you for this because this that is one of our concerns. But I also want to make sure that as we're putting this forward, nothing changes in terms of the possibility. One of the reasons we did some of the things we did was to protect the city, to make sure that we couldn't, that no, just anybody couldn't just go put up a banner, and that, you know, offensive banners or other things would now not be permitted because we're doing some of this stuff. So I just want to make sure we're clear on that part. So with that, I'd like to, if you don't mind, I'd like to hold for 1 week on that part, and then that's it, and then get my clarity from the law department, and then that's it.
So we'll want to hold this?
Just for 1 week. Okay.
Ms. Harris.
I just want to make sure
I
we're
would
clear.
also like to put my name on this piece of legislation.
All right, so
And I want to ditto on Councilwoman Smith.
Ms. Gross, Ms.
Second.
Harris, Ms. Gross is the sponsor, co-sponsored by Ms. Harris, Ms. Smith, and I think
We want to be sponsors with.
co-sponsors.
And we're going to
Sponsors.
redefine what the rules are of the Art Commission.
You guys decide that, that's fine. Is there any more, Mr. Coghill?
I would like to also be a co-sponsor if there's room for me. But, co-sponsor, same thing, no?
No, it's not.
And I want to thank Councilwoman Teresa Kill Smith for her efforts up in Mount Washington. As is usually the case, we kind of know all the same people, it seems, and those veterans up there, it's so important to them. And to have the art commissioner, whoever is holding it up, is silly.
No, can I just say part of the problem is that, if you don't mind, is that Councilwoman Gross has a 501c3 nonprofit group that's able to take the insurance. And so that's why they're able to get them out. We need a similar organization to be willing to step up and take responsibility for the insurance. And if so, then we could do it. But, I mean, when you think about it, we put banners up for the Penguins, we put banners up for the Pirates, we put banners up for the Steelers, we put banners up for concerts, we put banners up for other things, but we don't seem to manage to put them up for our veterans, the people who fought for us to have the rights to talk in the first place.
Right.
All right, so is there any more banter about banners?
No, I can go on and on if you want to hear it.
If not, I couldn't help myself. If not, we'll entertain a motion to hold for 1 week.
Motion to hold 1 week?
Is there a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposers, nay. That takes us to Land Use and Economic Development Committee. Ms. Gross is the chair. We have a deferred paper.
Bill 1493, ordinance amending the Pittsburgh Code, Title 4, Public Places and Property, Article 1, Public Right-of-Way Encroachment, Permit Required, Building public right-of-way encroachments to allow one-step program ramps to be installed without council approval.
I need a motion, Ms. Gross.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Discussion.
Second.
So, again, the last time we had this up, I said I wasn't actually sure if council members were supportive, so I apologize for not really having a count here of council members. This is to change the process so that it doesn't have to come to a council vote each time. And I think there was some discomfort among some council members, so I apologize to the planning department for, because I know I see them in the audience here, but I'm comfortable holding so that we can have more conversation until we can see what we want to do with the legislation.
Put that in the form of a motion, please.
Yeah.
I'm actually
So-
good with it, but,
I'll do,
okay.
say again, motion to hold 2 weeks? Would that be enough for people?
Second.
Okay.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Next bill, please. Newton.
Bill 1532, resolution authorizing the mayor and the director of city planning of the city to accept a grant from the Pennsylvania Museum and Historical Commission in the amount of $22,000. This grant will be used in conjunction with department funds to execute contracts for an architectural inventory of historic structures in the Oakland neighborhood of the city, not to exceed $44,000.
Ms. Gross.
Motion to approve?
Is there a second? Any conversation? No conversation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Next bill, please.
Bill 1534, resolution authorizing the mayor and director of the Department of City Planning to apply for grant funding from the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources Community Conservation Partnerships Program to provide funding for the master park planning process for Hayes Woods. The grant proposal includes an ask of $100,000 with a local match of $100,000 to come out of the 2020 City of Pittsburgh capital budget. In the event the grant is awarded, this resolution provides for an agreement and expenditures not to exceed $200,000 for this stated purpose.
I need a motion, Ms. Gross.
Motion to approve?
Need a second? Any conversation? No conversation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. It takes us to Intergovernmental Affairs Committee. Ms. Gross, Mr. Connor, rather, sorry, is the chair. Going too fast. We have a deferred paper.
Bill 983, resolution authorizing the mayor and the director of the Department of Finance to execute a quitclaim deed and any other necessary or appropriate documents, agreements, and instruments conveying as is all of the city rights, title, and interest, if any, in designated city-owned properties to the URA for consideration of $1 each, contingent upon the mayor and director of the Department of Finance first entering into a corporation agreement with the URA setting forth the rights and obligations of the city and the URA relating to these initial conveyances, and further setting forth the rights and obligations of the city and the URA relating to the subsequent disposition of these properties to third parties.
Mr. O'Connor.
Motion on 2 weeks.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Next bill, please.
Bill 1514, resolution adopting the plan revision to the City of Pittsburgh official sewer facilities plan for the 21st and Smallman Mixed Commercial Development Project. The existing buildings will be or have been demolished, and new buildings will be a mixture of restaurant, retail, and office space. Parking will be provided via a 3-level parking deck over existing surface parking. The site is located on the north side of Smallman Street between 21st and 23rd Street in the 2nd Ward.
Need a motion. Mr. O'Connor. Need a second.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Now, I know that we have, I know, I'm gonna get to you. I see it. I'm gonna get to you. We have,
I wish your chair was on wheels.
I know we're going to have I want to have a conversation before I can entertain the motion, if you do not mind. Because it's unrelated, but I want to say it
Sure.
first. If you don't mind me using the prerogative of the chair. One of the things when our mayor was a council person, he used to say, he didn't say it too much toward the end of his career as a council person, but when I first came to council, it was one of his favorite sayings. He used to say this all the time. I'll never forget it. He used to say, I am against special rights for some, but equal rights for everybody. And I remember him saying that over and over and over again, and I agree with that. And so I just want to put out there, I am of the belief that council and staff and the city's non-union staff should be treated with a level of dignity and respect, right? And they deserve the same benefits that the unions who work for our city and negotiate receive. And I will fight, as long as I'm a member of council, for those non-union people to have similar rights and privileges as the union workers of our city. As much as I can, I will fight that they all are treated equally, because we're all employees of the city. I want to say that from the onset, and then that's just a general statement that's not connected to anything, but I want to certainly make that point. All right, Ms. Harris.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to untable legislation 1309 of 2019.
Ms. Harris has motion to reconsider from the table Bill 1309. I need a second.
Second.
All right, so then.
Whoa, you can't. He voted no. I need somebody else as the second that was here and voted yes.
Need someone to make the motion.
I made the motion.
Got it. I'm not sure the second matters. I think it's I think anyone can
I
second.
prefer to go by the rules.
I am telling you the rules, all right? In my understanding of the rules, I'll look it up, but I'm almost sure, I could be wrong about this. I don't think the second to the motion to untable has to be by someone who voted for the table. I don't think the second to the motion has to be from someone, but it doesn't matter.
Point of clarity.
Yeah.
What bill is
1309 is the bill from the Personnel Committee to hire. It's here in front of me. It's a bill to authorize the mayor and the Department of Human Resources and Civil Service and Director of the Department of Innovation and Performance to enter into a professional service agreement or contract with Ceridian Human Capital Management for a citywide attendance system and providing for the payments cost thereof not to exceed $1,700,000. and $20,000. It's the
I got you.
the automatic, the online timekeeping system. All right? So it's been properly moved in second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Coghill.
Aye.
Ms. Gross.
Aye.
Mrs. Harris.
Aye.
President Kraus.
Aye.
Mr. Lavelle.
Aye.
Mr. O'Connor. Mrs. Kell Smith.
Aye.
Mrs. Strasburg and Reverend Burgess.
Aye.
8 members, yes.
Okay, so it is untabled. Now we need a motion to approve. Ms. Harris.
Motion to approve. With-
Second, Ms.
with
Harris.
discussion, thank you. Director?
Morning, Director.
I'd like a copy of the bill.
Ms. Harris.
Okay. Could you please give your name for the record?
Yes, good morning, Council. Janet Manuel, Director of Human Resources and Civil Service.
Okay. I had a discussion with our director right before this meeting, and when we tabled this, it took some work on her end to make sure that one of the biggest issues was that how did the unions feel about this change? And she did talk to every union except for one that she continually tried to get a hold of, which she did not get a call back, and that's why I felt that it should be brought up at this time. Now, there are some council members that would like to be briefed on this, but I thought we could have the briefing before next Tuesday. If we don't, then we'll hold it at that time.
I'm still waiting for a copy of the bill, which the clerk's bringing, so I'm not ready to vote.
Okay. Well, I think the director would like to get on with it. And it, how many weeks did we have us tabled?
It's been tabled since February 6th.
Right. So I thought we could have a briefing before Tuesday. The amount is 1.7 million over a 5-year period.
Which union was not contacted or didn't respond?
She had
Well, we'd like to
talked
know.
to all, and she has somewhere how many times she didn't, and she could tell you what
I'm
union
sure
that
she did her
was.
due diligence. I'm just wondering who didn't respond. I think the
Go ahead.
members might want to know.
SCIU.
And she has a listing of the times that she talked to each of the unions, and I thought it was only fair to.
I'm curious as to why they wouldn't, because they're pretty good.
And I thought, to have a briefing with council, that we could have it before Tuesday, and if that didn't happen, then we could bring it back to the table on Tuesday and hold it. Do you have a problem that you wouldn't be able to?
So all I'm saying is, and I know she did a lot of work, I got the briefing on it. It seems like council members just saw the bill. Now, I know, because I saw the briefing, so I get it. If you're willing to recommit next week anyways, why not just hold it? And we can schedule, it's going to delay it a week. You know, if nobody's happy by Tuesday, all I'm saying is if you hold a week, if you're willing to recommit on Tuesday, why not at least this half of the table is reading it right now. There was a mass email out.
I missed it.
Okay, sorry. So that would just be a request that why don't you just, well, it did go away. Yeah, it did go away, now it's back.
Yeah, she did send a letter up to council.
Yeah, no, yeah, I got that. I'm just saying,
And
it seems
I
like
just
everybody's
thought-
a little confused. Why not hold it? If you're willing to recommit, what's the harm in holding a week?
Just hold it for the week.
Is it
And does it
time?
matter, Director, to you?
Councilwoman Harris, I'm okay with you holding it for a week.
Okay.
Thank you.
There's such a motion.
Motion to hold 1
There's
week.
a second.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay.
I just want to thank the
you
director.
very much,
Thank you,
Director.
Director. I got the brief.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work on this. I know
Thank
you're
you.
doing a lot.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman Hero.
So
Yeah.
that brings us to the end of our meeting. I will make the announcements next Tuesday, April 16th at 1:30 p.m. Council will hold a Cablecast post agenda discussion on the youth participatory budget.
my number.
And next Wednesday, April 16th at 2 p.m., Council will hold a Cablecast post agenda discussion on the state of food insecurity. All right.
I would just say I will not be here next week. I have to do some medical stuff, but I just want to say I won't be here next week, so I'll catch up and watch everything. Thank you.
All right. Any other announcements that members of council have? No other members, no other announcements, then I'll entertain a motion to excuse the absent member and approve the minutes and adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Need a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. We adjourn.